Good day to you. This is another video that focuses on the completion of the forms that relates to the standard operating procedure on receiving and returning the manual receipt books. Now this is the second form and this is based on interbranch book transfers. What I want to start off with, which I think is very important for you to keep in mind, whenever a book leaves a premises, whenever a book leaves a branch, there must be a paper trail. There must be a record of where that book has gone, and every time the book exchanges hands, those hands must sign for the books. All right, so keep that in mind. No book leaves a branch without a signature or a form that has been completed. All right, so in this instance, there is again two scenarios for books on the interbranch book transfers form. Let's look at the first one. So let's say, for example, books needs to go from Tzaneen head office to the Mafef branch. But what happens is sometimes the driver come on to Tzaneen head office, but he's not going to go directly to Mafef. He's first going to go to Burgersfort and drop it off at Burgersfort, and then later on someone else might take it to Mafef. This is what this form is there for. What needs to happen is Maggie at Tzaneen head office will again list the books, be it IDR, new joining application forms, manual receipt books, whatever type of book, she will list here as well as the numbers. And then the person that's coming to fetch it from Maggie at head office will check to see if they received all these books. In this instance, in this example, it's Lebu. Lebu will now check and see, did Maggie give me all the books that she listed here? If I'm happy, Lebu is happy, then Lebu will write in the date, her name and surname, please, not only name. Always write your name and surname, signature, and off Lebu now goes to Burgersfort. When Lebu comes to Burgersfort, Lebu will then hand those books over to a staff member working at Burgersfort. In this example, it is a person by the name of Ronnie Chauki. So Lebu will now hand these books over to Ronnie. Ronnie will first check to see that I receive all the books listed that Maggie listed from Lebu, and if Ronnie is happy, Ronnie will put in the date, his name and surname, he will sign for it, and he will indicate that he received it here at the Burgersfort branch. Okay, so you can see that all happened on one day. So only say 2 days later, now someone is going to go to Mafef branch. And remember, this should actually go to Mafef. So what's going to happen is, a person that's going to drive to Mafef branch 2 days later is Shadrach. Now Shadrach needs to get those books from Ronnie. Ronnie will give the books to Shadrach. Shadrach also needs to make sure that all the books are there that have been listed. Shadrach will then put his name and surname. He will sign for it. He'll put in the date that he's leaving the Burgersfort branch. Now, Shadrach is on his way to Mafef, the last point, and then Sidwell will receive it from Shadrach. Sidwell will check, did he receive all the list of books that are listed there from Shadrach, and when Sidwell is happy, he will put in the date and he will sign and he will put in his branch. Now, this is the last point, Mafef, because it indicated here it must go to Mafef. But very, very important. Remember, I said there must be a tracking system whenever a book leaves a branch. So when that book has left Burgersfort, Ronnie must make a copy of this form where Shadrach has signed for the books. Okay? So Ronnie must have Shadrach sign for it and then make a copy and give one to Shadrach, and Ronnie will keep the other copy on a file at Burgersfort branch. When Shadrach has given the books to Sidwell, he will then ask Sidwell to sign. And what should happen? Please remember, guys, the last place where it has now been delivered to, that must be scanned. This form will then be scanned by Sidwell and then emailed to Maggie so that she can see, oh, okay, it has now arrived at Mafef. Okay, so now it closes that whole process where Maggie needed to ensure that it gets from head office to Mafef. But Sidwell needs to scan and send it, and Sidwell can keep it on his computer as a record that he did receive it and he did sign for it. Ronnie at Burgersfort also needs to show, I did receive it and I hand it over to Shadrach to hand it over to Sidwell. I hope this makes sense to you. Then the second scenario could be, let's say for example, you want to send books from one branch to another branch. In this example, it says from Bush to Hazyview. Now, what's going to happen here is the person, a staff member at Bush, is now going to list all the books here that needs to go to Hazyview. So the books are going to be listed here. As I said, it could be IDR book, it could be a manual receipt book, it could be a new joining application, whatever book needs to then be recorded in this list, okay? And then at Bush, the staff member will then contact the driver to come and fetch these books. In this example, Peter Chauki will now come and get the books from the staff member who completed this form. And then he will check and see, did he receive all the books that the staff member indicated in here? If he's happy, he will put in the date, he'll put in his name and surname, he'll sign, and then he will also indicate he is now leaving from Bush. All right? Now, this staff member needs to keep a copy of where it is signed up until this point and give one to Peter and file the other one. Now, Bush, the driver is driving from Bush now to Hazyview, because remember it needs to go to Hazyview, and there he will hand over the books to Doris Mashumu as an example. Okay, and Doris then needs to check, did I receive all the books? If she's happy, she will then put in the date, she will write in her name and surname, she will sign, and she will put in the branch. Now Doris, the last person that received this, now again needs to scan this form and send that through to Maggie at head office, so that Maggie can also see, the books that I handed to Bush is now going at a later stage, it's now going to Hazyview, so I also now know where these books are. And the people at Bush also have evidence that they have sent this to Doris. Okay, so this is just to cover everyone, making sure that when I say I've handed this book to someone, then you've got a signature and evidence that these books have been going through hands and where it ended up. And we can keep track of where all of these books are. Please, if there's anything that you need clarity on, you're not understanding, contact the training department and we will gladly assist. The last form will now be discussed in the last video as well. Please make sure you have a look at that. That's specifically for the line managers. That's going to be video 3. Thank you.